and welcome to Roadmap 2023, our election issues and personalities tracking program. I am Ladi Akeredoluale. Thanks for being with us. My guest on today's edition says the 7-day postponement for the governorship and state assemblies elections by INEC will give it enough time to get its act together and ensure a smoother process. My guest also says his party's loss at the state level in the presidential election on February the 25th will have no effect on the outcome of the governorship election, which he is convinced he will win. Roadmap 2023 talks to the All Progressives Congress, APC, governorship candidate in Cross River State, Senator Bassey Edet Otu. Distinguished Senator Bassey Otu, thank you for your time. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much for having me.
Let me start by asking on a general level, what's your impression of the 2023 general election so far, starting, of course, with the presidential and National Assembly elections that held on the 25th?
Well, my impression is that INEC is upping its game at every coming elections. I believe that apart from some technical hitches, they've done well with the beavers, since this is the first time it's been introduced on a national scale like this.
Given you mentioned the beavers there, and I wanted to follow through on that because the beavers proved controversial during the presidential and National Assembly elections. It's the first time they are being used on a national level, but so many people were disappointed that, you know, in spite of INEC's promise, the results couldn't be viewed on the IREF portal in real time. Were you one of those who was disappointed with that? And if so, what kind of impact could it have on trust and voter turnout in subsequent elections?
Well, I want to believe that in judging INEC, we have to give some benefits of the doubt. When they were claiming or saying that, yes, they were going to go on beavers, for people like me, I felt since this is the first time we are going to test this on a large scale, there will definitely be some problems. But I believe that whatever they came up with is actually the general will of the Nigerians, because we've seen some very popular candidates lose in their domains. So I think, though there were some issues, they did quite well. In terms of the trust deficit, one would say that has created, INEC is still developing. INEC is still building on what they're doing. It shouldn't affect the forthcoming election, because I think they've taken notice of those things that didn't go well and are going to correct them. So we expect that people should come out again in their numbers and vote their choices of candidates.
Now, before I bring you to Cross River at all, I have a series of questions I want to ask about the national level, which is that, you know, we just talked about voter turnout. And in spite of everything that was said in the run-up to the February 25th election, the voter turnout was very, very low. It was even lower than it was in 2019, in spite of, you know, the presence of even, you know, more political parties in the front line this time. To what do you think that can be attributed?
Well, I want to believe that the voter turnout was affected by the monetary policy, the cash policy that came into play. You know, in some localities, like my local government where I come from, the topography is not that easy to move from one point to the other without paying transportation fares and so on and so forth. And at the point that the election came up, the banks couldn't supply the required amount that was needed to transport people to their different voting points. I believe that if that situation is improved upon, people should be able to pay fares to where they are supposed to vote. And don't forget that in terms of mobility and the dynamics of time, people move housing and so on and so forth. And we'll need to move from one point to the other. The blockades that were put in place to ensure a peaceful election did not allow people to also cross certain barriers to areas they were expected to vote. I believe this affected the voter turnout. And Because there was no money, a lot of people were hungry. And if the distances are quite far, it's difficult for a man who is very hungry to travel kilometers to go and vote. So I believe that accounted for it.
Now, you talked about the barriers that were put in place to ensure, that peace reigns during the elections. And that speaks to security challenges. Of course, you and I both know that nationally we've been battling with security challenges for quite a while now. This is not the first election that we're doing with security challenges in the background. But it does appear some have said that, those security challenges have become worse under the present circumstances. Do you agree, and do you think that they might have had any kind of impact on the outcome in terms of both the results and in terms of how people voted and how many of them actually voted?
Yes, I think it must have had. My belief that actually the security blockades were necessary to ensure that there's peace. But I think the personnel that are mounting these roadblocks must some way tone down in terms of trying to make sure that people get to their location of voting. Because if you look at probably the PVC, and from there you know where a particular human being is going to, a particular citizen is going to vote, he should be allowed thoroughfare to be able to assess his area of voting so that he will be able to exercise his franchise. I want to also believe that probably because of the fear of the unknown, they were very, very still and still. But moving forward, somehow, their bosses, their commanders should be able to let them know that the actual or the real exercise will be affected if people are not allowed to go to their polling units or polling points. So I think this should be taken on board so that the different security personnel are put online to understand that the essence of the exercise is for people to go and vote, for people to go and exercise their franchise. But where you hold them at checkpoints and at times don't even allow them to go back, there's a little bit of a problem and a setback. I wouldn't know to what extent that must have affected the results of the election, but I believe that it's probably a problem that we can overcome. We should just bring it in these coming elections, and the numbers will definitely improve.
Now, the elections were pushed forward by a week from the 11th to the 18th. That's talking about the governorship and state assembly elections. Do you think that, is enough time to work on all the various things you've mentioned so far within the interview? And does it confer, any kind of advantage for political parties like yours to fine-tune your campaign strategies ahead of the elections themselves?
Well, I want to believe that all of us are playing according to the rules. And INEC here is the referee. They must have taken stock both in terms of technicalities and the human capital movement that is involved before they came to that conclusion. All we can do as a political party is to adjust. But I can tell you that we in APC, the adrenaline was already up. So this probably 1 week they've added is added bonus for us to even do some more work. And I believe that other parties will do the same. Because I've seen in Cross River State, no party has let go. Everybody is still in the field. I've been in the field since 6 a.m. And I think that with 1 week added, it's not going to be quite easy. But we should get there, definitely.
Now, you talk about momentum and adrenaline and all of that, and that's expected, especially at this stage with things so close, and we have gotten, quite close to the election. But I wonder how that adrenaline can stay up high, because in the presidential election, the APC lost in Cross River, the presidential election. It lost in Cross River, and there were those who said that would have dampened support for the party in Cross River. How do you respond to that? How have you taken the fact that the APC lost in Cross River for the presidential election, and how that may affect your own chances as a governorship candidate come the 18th?
I don't think that will affect my chances at all, because what happened here also happened in other climes in the country. I believe that the electorate are so enlightened now that they don't really vote political parties per se. Most of them vote for personalities and vote for individuals. There was an OB wave, which nobody would deny the fact that there was that wave. And somehow people voted for that. But the pattern is going to be very different here. Because in Cross River State, I'm not new to the political scene. My antecedents are very clear. And you're going to see the Sweet Prince wave this time around. I can assure you.
Now, you mentioned the OB wave, and that's speaking to the Labour Party. But then the other people that I've spoken to have pointed out that PDP is basically in charge in Cross River State, and that APC is now making any kind of waves because Governor Ben Ayade crossed over to APC, and not because APC is on ground in Cross River State. So you were in PDP incidentally until you crossed over as well to the APC. So how are you going to dislodge, if you permit me to use that phrase, how are you going to dislodge the PDP, in what is traditionally their stronghold?
Well, actually, political parties are made of people. Those waves you've heard and those foundations were put there by people. A majority of those people today are in APC. In terms of what we say, the empirical statistics that is on ground, you can see the number of senators that APC has, and you can see also the number of House of Rep members. And by this, I don't need to belabor the fact that APC is totally on ground. Once upon a time, it was PDP. But the dynamics of time and the challenges changes situation. Even in some very developed climes, you will know that after about 16 years, power must change hands because people are beginning to be too tired with the same story day in, day out. And in Cross River, where we find ourselves, is only a progressive government that can take us to the next level. And I will tell you, without any equivocation, that Cross River State is APC. But like I say, it's not really about party too much. People are voting for individuals. People are voting for personalities. That is why if you do your detailed analysis, you will see that the Cross River State polity, very, very enlightened this time. They don't take no for an answer. And the people that are being voted, there's going to be more burden for them, both in terms of accountability and productivity. We are happy for it. We are fair. Because that means our state is moving to the next level. But to say the least, APC is the beginning and the end as far as Cross River State is concerned.
There are many people who will be listening to you now who will say, but Senator Otu, the current governor, Ben Ayade, was, contesting to go to the Senate, and he lost. So how are you saying this, with so much confidence, particularly when he lost? I mean, he has the power of incumbency. He had the resources. He's been in power for almost 8 years. He's a close friend of yours. He's backing your candidacy, and yet he lost.
That actually goes to confirm what I've said earlier. When you step into government, there are certain policies and things you do. Some will earn you some enemies, and some will earn you some friends. Some of the policies of Professor Ben Ayade, like giving Cross River State a foundation in terms of productive economy, is what people don't see is production very quickly. But I know that in the not too distant future, they will know the economy that he has created. And people know very well that government face different challenges at different points of time. The challenges that his government faced, I believe, because of the dynamics of time, is not the same challenges that we are going to face. And yes, it is true that me coming on board and coming with antecedents are not just coming from anywhere. I've been in the House of Rep, I've been in the Senate. I've been in this democratic dispensation very, very life and toil. I've done things which can turn your eyes and look at it, and the legacies are still there on the Prince of Time. So the people know what is right and they know what is wrong. Elections at times do come like that. Probably the Senatorial District has an issue. If it was a statewide election, maybe he would have won. But whatever it is, we are moving forward. And if you want to put the figures together, or you want to do probably an exit poll before the election, you will know who is going to win. Because the plans that we have put in place is such that Cross River State is moving forward. We are not just moving forward, We want to leapfrog and be where we are supposed to be.
And bring you now to the politics of Cross River State and your plans for the state if you are elected governor. Now, as it is now, you mentioned it just now when you said that, Governor Ben Ayade had tried to put some kind of industrial productive base on the ground and that, not everybody received that properly. Now, I want to ask that in spite of those efforts, Cross River is still not known as industrial or manufacturing hub, even in the South. Now, yet you require revenue. It doesn't have as much revenue as some of the other states like Akwa Ibom, Rivers, and others in the South. So I'm wondering, what plans have you got specifically to grow the revenue base of Cross River State in this direction?
Very, very good question indeed. Well, before going to the House of Reps, I was already an accomplished banker and a farmer. And my main priority is to build a very robust, sustainable economy based on pragmatism. It is true that even in the Eastern region days, the main engine of prosperity was actually Cross River State. We had our plantations all over the place, both in terms of rubber, in terms of palm, in terms of cocoa. So we are going to revive all this immediately. Agric is going to be our main driver of prosperity. In terms of making sure that we create the necessary liquidity, if you look at our sectoral policy documents, we know how to put that in place. Despite the heavy debt burden of about 400 and something billion that is hanging over our heads, we are looking to make sure that in the shortest possible period that we can, we are going to change that narrative. Because once our liquidity is set in place, we'll be able to renegotiate our debts. And we'll have the ambience and the allowance to inject investments into certain areas that will produce cash immediately. Where we are right now, and if you want to look at it, both in terms of macro and microeconomic analysis, we have a portfolio of an emerging economy of over $1 billion. If we look at the rice mill that has been set up, which has started production already, it started production and in less than 2 weeks, it finished all the rice pellets that we have sector. What we have to do now to build an economy, because we are actually setting up a grower scheme, which is going to be guaranteed and backed by law. Before you know it, we are going to set up some rice belts because some banks have already indicated the fact that they have interest in wanting to come in. So by the time we set up the backstock, the feedstock for this particular processing plant, then we must have created a lot of cash, both in terms of production. Because any young man now who own about a hectare of rice is already a millionaire. And then we move into cocoa, we move into palm. We have all this in place. So even though we are not going to rely on federal allocation too much, some of the processing plants that have been put in place are enough to decouple us off from the apron strings of the federal allocation. So I know that we're setting up venture capitalist sort of operations, which by the time they come into agri fully, this will immediately drive techpreneurs from other sectors to come in, and the economy will immediately blossom. That I know very well.
In that kind of situation, let me bring you to two key sectors, because when people talk about government, usually they talk about industries, manufacturing, and then they talk about infrastructure, roads, bridges, and the like. But two sectors that people consider to be quite vital, because those ones go to the heart of the citizenry, are education and health. I took a look at the statistics for Cross River State as released by the NBS most recently for the last couple of years. And Cross River is not in the top percentile of those figures. So I guess the question to ask you is that even though you might say the current government has done well, there is a lot of room for improvement. What are your plans in that specific direction?
I totally agree with you. There's a lot of room for improvement. What we're trying to do in education is to address the basics. it is very true that our education is suffering seriously, not just in Cross River State, but across board in the country. We want to address the problem from pre-education level to even the tertiary institution level, to make sure that we reject it in a way that there will be participation from different sectors, to take emphasis away from certificate, but for people to learn and be able to adapt to take what they've studied or learned into practice by adapting it to what the society needs. In the education sector, we're making sure that in every ward there should be at least a pre-education facility that will take care of the young ones even before they start the primary school. We're not going to allow any child to be promoted to primary 6 without being able to read and write. In the secondary school, we are going to make sure that, look, while you're going into the secondary school, that you actually understand what you're being taught by making sure that teacher training is going to be very, very regular. Luckily and good enough, Cross River State has an advanced teacher training facility which they have set up in Bassey, West African training. So when you look at it, you know that we are really poised to change education. We've checked most of the graduates that are produced now. If you look at it and say probably they should write a sentence, it's difficult for them to balance this sentence grammatically in terms of structure, because actually the education has been somehow in recent years. We are going to address that problem. Not just that, we have a college of education where you have the students more than the lecturers. You have qualified lecturers, but very few students. We're going to change it. We'll upgrade it to University of Education, where bachelor's degrees will be awarded, and then turn it to a serious skill acquisition center. Because for most of the graduates that come out, they are not employable. That's a part of the fact that they cannot adapt what they have studied or apply it to the general society, the dynamics of the society. They cannot help themselves. So what we are going to do is, you come out as you graduate from wherever you are, you move to this University of Education and get yourself probably qualified in one of the international certificates, and you secure a job anywhere in the world quite easily. We have also looked at Obubra. There's a place we call Obubra.
Indeed, I'm familiar with it.
A college, yes. There used to be a college of agriculture there, but it was somehow changed with a faculty of agriculture from the university. If you go there too, you'll find very few students, and we are not actually producing the technical middle education level professionals that we actually need to move our agri forward. We've decided we are bringing back the College of Agriculture to make sure that we train real agricultural agronomists who are going to change our society completely. In fact, in our program, we're looking to plant 1 million trees in the shortest possible time from that particular place. And we move to Kuku campus in Ogoja. What we are going to do is, we do have the faculty of the College of Basic Medical Sciences, where we have too many graduates, graduate in anatomy, biochem, and so on and so forth. We're going to upgrade it to a full medical school of faculty of medicine, where people will come and graduate as bachelors in medicine in order to fill some of the gaps which we've seen in our health sector. So we want to properly address this education issue, because without addressing it, we can not really move to the level that we really want to. So we are taking education very, very seriously. So also with the health. That is why you find our manifesto says people first, because actually we want to eliminate the policy thrust of the administration is to eliminate all wastes, and then make sure we subsidize all factors of production. And the first factor of production is the human being. And these two basic necessities, which is education and health, is prime and sine qua non for us moving the society forward. So we are giving it the basic attention. The health, yes, we are still going to move according to what United Nations is saying in terms of the universal health coverage. We're going to make sure we follow that. We are lacking backward in most of the indices. We've discovered in our state that people have more confidence in private facilities, like pharmacy. If somebody is sick, he prefers to go to the pharmacy because of the way our hospitals are. But we've decided that we are going to join both, because the cost is going to be driven down. We're going to ensure that insurance covers almost everybody. so that people can move straight into those facilities. Rather than allow them lie waste, we don't mind the private sectors coming to run it. Because it's very clear that for governance to go forward, there has to be that cooperation. That nexus has to be drawn for both the private and the public facilities to come together to give the society the value that they deserve.
How about pensions and gratuities and outstanding salary arrears for workers who are being owed by the Cross River State government? That's a very contentious issue. And many of them will be looking to hear what it is you want to do about that, because it's a problem that is not going away.
Well, I want to say that as a comrade and somebody who is coming from a civil society background, I feel pained, very, very pained, when I find this type of issues. Yesterday, I spent a lot of time with the Nigerian Union of Pensioners. We discussed all these issues in detail. They were able to give me all the problems and so on and so forth. And I've given them my word that the situation is definitely going to change. I know that the economy, the debt burden and other issues have come to play in terms of liquidity being available for these particular issues to be solved. But it's very difficult to also accept the fact that these people, some of them have worked for 30 years, 40 years, and are putting all they can to make sure we have the society which we are living on for now. Very unfortunate that some of them die even without assessing that. I believe that when you look at the jumbo that it is, that to some extent discourages the government from entering into it. But our government is not going to be deterred by that. We believe it's better to start than not to start at all. We will sit down with them as stakeholders and show them what is available and agree so that we take it in batches. But I want to tell them that the incoming government is better days ahead. And I say this because the bonds of my trajectory is service. For people who know me, they know that my word is my bond. Like I promised them, it is even better for them to take their pensions before the civil servants. And I'm giving them every assurance that that will be done.
That's something they'll be looking forward to holding you to. So let me bring you now to some of the nitty-gritty. What is the one thing, if you were to identify one thing, that people can say that, you know, if you do this and that you plan to do it within 100 days of being governor of Cross River State, should you be elected, what will that one thing be that will have immediate impact on the people?
Well, for me, the problems we face, I doubt if it's going to be one thing. Because the way we want to face these challenges, they are multi-sectoral in nature. They are hydra-headed in nature. I'm not going to be look at one thing. I've told the politicians as I'm campaigning that I'm not really coming for a name. I'm coming to conclude. I'm coming to build on all the achievements which all other governments have put in place. I'm coming to complete all the uncompleted projects by all the governments of Cross River State since they've started. That I've stated in my blueprint. I think by the time we start on this project, we will see it. But my assurance to you is that in 100 days, you will definitely see the difference. I'm not going to judge myself, but people are going to be the judge. They will know that a serious government has come to play, and we're here to advance the cause of the people. So in the 100 days, it's not just me that's going to be judged, because it's going to be a stakeholders government, which all of us are going to agree on the way forward. But I can give you the assurance that the difference will be clear.
As you pointed out earlier on in the interview, you were in you were in the National Assembly, first in the House of Reps, and then in the Senate. So you're quite familiar with the workings there. And one of the questions that I've been asked, to put across to you by our viewers is: do you agree that members of the National Assembly are underutilized, that they don't put in as much work as they should, and that they're overpaid?
Well, in terms of overpayment, I don't really know. In terms of underutilization, except the parliament doesn't want to engage itself. In my 12 years in parliament, I can hardly remember when I sleep maybe under 1 o'clock. A lot of jobs to be done. A lot of jobs to be done. And I believe that it is left for the parliament to engage itself properly. An early parliament that is not a true representation of the people do have problems. I think moving forward, Nigerians are more enlightened now. They will definitely expect more from the parliament. So the parliamentarians that are going there should sit up. And people should learn. They should learn to call back the people who they've sent there. If they are not up to expectations, because a lot of people go there and don't speak for years, but they keep on going there. I don't know what they're going there to do. People should learn to recall back those people who they feel are not representing them very well. That way, people will sit up in parliament and do what they are required to do. But to say they work, there is a lot of work. And those parliamentarians should be paid. But they should work very well.
Indeed. You've talked about the fact that you were in the National Assembly for 12 years, and I want to use the opportunity to ask that in those 12 years, what were some of the things that you brought home to Cross River State as dividends of democracy, if you like, which the people can look at and say, okay, well, if he could do this at the National Assembly, why don't we give him a shot as governor? Because there are those who are accusing you of having done precisely nothing.
I don't think I will agree with that. I doubt if anybody will accuse me of that, except the person probably is not exposed to the National Assembly at all. In the House of Rep, I was chairman House Committee on Petroleum Upstreams. Apart from the fact that I moved several bills, which some have turned to law, the most prominent among them, I would say, is a local content bill, which has turned to the Nigerian Content Development Act. When I was pushing forward that bill, people did not believe that it would come to be an act. As a matter of fact, when I pushed it on, several bribes were offered to me to kill the bill, but I refused. Because after looking at the sector, I'm a problem solver. I look for solutions wherever I go. And when I check, the problem we had is we had 31% of Nigerians in that sector. And this is a major sector. This is the mainstay of Nigerians. I say, how can this mainstay of Nigeria be taken care of by foreigners? That no, if we are to control this properly, then Nigerians must take charge of this particular sector. I went in with partnership from the Indigenous Petroleum Expert and so on and so forth. We came up with that Local Content Act, and it was passed into law. It turned to what we have as the Nigerian Content Development Act now. And you have the Nigerian Content Development Board in Bayelsa, which is also a baby of that act. That changed the sector for good. Today, we have 91% of Nigerians in that sector. God see that bill, which are sponsored. That is the kind of difference. That is the kind of experience we are talking about. I did not stop there. I was moved. I was promoted to the Senate. I went to the Senate. In the Senate, first and foremost, I was chairman Senate Committee on Finance, where I looked at our revenue streams, because that seemed to be the problem. When I look at the deficit financing that we had to inject into that budget for it to balance. And I said, look, we have no business here looking for money to balance our budget or to finance our budget, because our revenue streams actually were not exhausted. And when I worked on the revenue streams, I discovered that even the budget that we were proposing at the time, 9-point-something trillion, was the budget of the police department of New York. And we are talking of a whole country of very solid Nigerians here. So I said no. And I checked on it, I looked at it, I was able to come up with about 21 revenue streams. But before I could actually submit that report, I was moved to banking, where I was also chairman Senate Committee on Banking. And in Senate Committee on Banking, I looked at what was the major problem. The major problem then were banks going down. Banks going down. Most of the petitions I had were from people who were stranded, people who had worked 30 years, 30-something years, people who had their life savings in banks, and the banks went under. And I said, look, we have to look for a way to change this narrative. We put heads together with the bankers, and we came up with what we call a prudential banking system, where one bank is going down, another bigger bank swallows or picks it up. And ever since I left the Senate as chairman Senate Committee on Banking, I think we are going to 8 years now. No bank has ever gone down. And I tell you, you cannot be given this type of positions. Chairman House Committee on Petroleum Industry, Chairman Senate Committee on Finance, Chairman Senate Committee on Banking, if you are not tested and trusted. And in all this, there is the international component that is attached to it, which will represent Nigeria both in arbitrations and discussions. And at no time was I found wanting. It is this type of antecedents, it is this type of experience, it is this wealth that you bring to our state. And where our state is now is very precarious. It needs an experienced hand who is not only popular in the 3 senatorial districts, who is completely detribalized and is ready to take the state to the next level, who understands where to go, can open doors in Abuja, and can attract investors. If you want to look at that person, I think it is me. I have surplus capacity to move Cross River State to the next level.
Indeed, let me take you up where you talked about tried, tested, and trusted, and there are those who will hearken to some of the controversy that has surrounded you and your candidature. So I just want to ask you, which one is correct here? Because let's go back a little and look at it. The APC screening committee, which was to confirm you as the governorship aspirant for the primaries, did not allow you to go ahead. It disqualified you because it said that you were guilty of some offenses. That, of course, was subsequently quashed by a court. But there are those who say that the court did not speak to the charges against you. It spoke to the person who brought the case to the courts. Now, I'm not a lawyer, so I want you to clear the air for us about that. Is it true? What exactly are you guilty of?
I'm not guilty of anything. I think I've lived my life all along, and people who know me know me. I have my classmates right from elementary 1 to date. What they're saying is not true, and I believe that each and every one has seen that. It is what I would say, there's always a process in place which the party puts in. At no time was I ever disqualified. There's been no letter to it, nothing to date. At no time. I want to correct this so that people will know. I've never committed any offense. Neither have I been detained or taken to court anywhere. My records are clean, very clean for people to go and see. I have colleagues I have met all over my life. And I actually do not have any question to answer when it comes to integrity. It was a political gimmick by some people, and they were caught halfway. Those people have apologized and said, well, it was a game of politics. But I tell you boldly that I stand tall. Coming to run this race, yes, APC had put a committee of elders who sat and screened me. They screened all my documents. They screened all my particulars and came up. About the 10 men or 11 that were put in charge of that committee, all of them scored me the highest. We moved from there to the primaries. And the primaries, I got 811 votes to the next candidate who got 84 votes or thereabout. We moved from the primaries and there were cost issues. I wasn't afraid because I was said, well, if it is court as far as I'm concerned, I'll be vindicated. And the issues are there. Our legal and law procedures are incurred. What I was taking to court was a criminal procedure which should have been followed through the criminal procedure, not through what I will call ordinary courts, where you're not going to call all parties to enter the same box. And by the time the case come up, it couldn't stand the test of time because they did not follow the criminal procedure. And besides this, all organizations the world over were writing and asking who is this and who came with that kind of application. So I believe that it was merely politics. But I'm happy for this platform which you have given so that this can be corrected. Nothing like that ever happened. I am Senator Prince Bassey too. I have worked before even moving to for the House of Representatives. I was a banker and a banker of repute. My records are there. I've been given triple promotions because of some of the things that are aired and uncovered. When I moved to the parliament, my colleagues are there to testify. At no time was I found wanting, whether in my job or in my integrity. At no time at all. So I stand tall, I am the same. and nothing like that can dent my name. I have a family and our people. People who go to do such things, it's not too good. Because when you're playing politics with that, it affects also the family. But my family know me and I know them. My friends know me and I know them. Nigeria knows me. All the security agencies, they know me. Of course, before we are given these positions which I talked about, they will check it out thoroughly. And if there were malfeasance and issues like that, there's no way you would have been given Chairman Petroleum Upstream, Chairman Finance, or Chairman Banking. So I believe
because of our time, let me ask you about something else, because the accusation is that you have scaled a lot of these hurdles also because you have a godfather in the current governor of Cross River State, Ben Ayade, and that, he's the one who has made sure that, you scale through all of this, that you are the party's candidate, and that he's the one who is also, ensuring that you are participating in this race and that you will, he's ensuring that you will emerge victorious. And that as a result, you will be beholden to him if the people elected you governor. Is that true? What's your relationship with Governor Ayade?
Governor Ayade is my very good friend. We're together like that in the Senate. But whatever issues, I want to let you know, you cannot deny your friend or deride him. Issues of judgment are of God. There are some people who might hate Professor Ben Ayade, but there are also some people who might like him. But let me correct this impression, because people always ask, as you are going to be beholden, you are going to do the same like Professor Ben Ayade. Each government has its policy. Each government has its manifesto. It's not the same challenges that faces a particular government that faces the other. Mine is a people-first government. I'm not going to do things which people do not contribute and not have input. And besides that, there are antecedents. I've worked. This is not going to be the first one. When they say your godfather is supporting you in this, Governor Ayade does not control the courts, except for somebody who has not come to Cross River State. You can ask your branch in Cross River State. Let them do a polls, an exit polls in Cross River State, and find out who is the most popular candidate. As far as I know, in politics, people will always look for what to say and look for what to do. But we know that there are some candidates in this election who are worse than Governor Ayade. I know also that they say, he will be below him. He brought him out. Who brought them out? Those who are accusing, please, who brought them out to come and contest? I believe that governments are different and governments change. We are going to face our own the way that we are going to face. I know that there are certain things that have been put in place which we must complete and make sure it works for cross rivers. Whoever is telling people that he wants to discontinue on this, do you want to tell me that dual carriageway that runs through the north, somebody will come and say he will not complete it because it was started by Ben Ayade? You want to tell me that the referral hospital, the university, or the airport at Obudu should lie fallow because it was started by Governor Ben Ayade? No, that would not be fair, because public funds and resources were invested on this. And we must make sure that those things work for the benefit of cross rivers. I have said times and number that I'm not really coming for a name, but to change the narrative in Cross River State. We are truly a land of abundance. Majority of the people believe in my capacity. They know what I can do. When I was in Parliament, my records are still standing. My legacy, the footprints on the sands of time, are still standing. And I believe that I'm going to also make the difference here. Let them not judge me by any government. Let them allow me and give me my innocence. Let them stand on my antecedents, because Cross River State is going to change for the better.
Indeed. My final question to you, Senator Tu, will be about INEC and the elections that are coming, in which you are a candidate of a party. Do you have trust in INEC? I know at the beginning of the interview you talked about the fact that we should give them opportunity to correct their ways. But do you have trust that they will do a good job when it is time for the governorship elections? And what are the areas that you'll be looking at in terms of judging that this election will be free, fair, and credible?
I want to believe that INEC is going to do things right. The technical hitches we had, I'm sure they are going to correct it. I'm moving forward I also want to urge Nigerians that they give INEC a chance to build on what they've done and deliver. Thank you very much.
Indeed. Let us end it on that positive note. Senator Bassey, too, I can only wish you the very best of luck in the coming elections. Thank you for your time on the program.
Thank you very much, sir. I also thank the viewers for viewing, and I thank the station. God bless you.
That's our program today. We would, of course, like to hear from you on the conversation. Our social media handles are right there on your screen. You can also listen to this and previous episodes of the program via our podcast. Please visit our website, channelstv.com, to get started. I'm Ladi Akeredoluale. Goodbye.